It's bitch week. I'm just kidding.
Mike week.
It's Mike week. This is going to be bitch week because I might bitch. I did have signs down here, but that was like before The Village came out and was like, now this is the real shit. And the Mothman prophecies.
I guess you're going to be more shocked by my real number one because it's Signs. Like, I didn't know that you hated that movie because I love that movie.
Kids are screaming bloody murder. They're like, ooh. But they were. It was like, I think they must have told those kids that like Ronald McDonald didn't exist or something because they were like, the worst thing a child could hear, Ronald McDonald doesn't exist. Most kids would be happy if they found that out because they're terrified of Ronald. Maybe they were screaming because they were like, holy fuck, he did exist. Hey man, how you doing? This is the 79th episode of the Buddy Shotz podcast.
Whoa.
It's bitch week. I'm just kidding.
Mike week.
It's Mike week. This is going to be bitch week because I might bitch.
Oh.
But the feature presentation is Reign of Fire and Weird Watches is For All Mankind.
Cool. I'm ready to get into it.
So I forgot to do this last week, but I don't think there were any taglines, so whatever. But this week, there's no taglines for All Mankind because it's like just a show, and I guess they didn't want to advertise it. Reign of Fire, we've got Fight Fire with Fire. The Battle Ignites, July 12th. They're extremely intelligent, highly evolved, and they don't like sharing the planet.
Man, so this is another one that it came out like almost exactly 20 years ago.
Yeah.
This month.
And the movie takes place 2 years ago, 2020. It's like,
where were you in July 2002? You're like, I was lined up to see Reign of Fire.
Yeah, wearing this shirt. I was like...
A throwback.
Yeah. You know, they all got big dicks.
Nice.
Everybody's like, what the fuck are they talking about?
Gotta go back to the Day of the Dead episode for that one.
Yeah. I just had to test.
Such
Testing. So far, it's been a good start. Now let's fuck it up.
Yeah.
So have you been this week good?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Been watching a lot of TV because I paid for a month of Apple Plus to watch For All Mankind.
Oh. Did they have a lot of good stuff in there? Like, is it a good selection?
No. But they have a couple really good shows, which I will talk about shortly.
Nice.
In another segment.
We like your shirt.
Ah, thank you.
Do you think they'll go all the way this year?
They better.
Because if not,
it's over.
We're going to run them into the ground. Okay, so I guess let's move on to nerd news. Is that cool with you, or do you have anything else to say?
And you're going to have to carry this segment because I didn't bring any. Okay,
no problem. Nerd news. So this week, I've got a couple things here. So I have a quote for, like, I guess apparently the reason why Clerks 3 even got made is because Jay and Silent Bob reboot sold a shit ton.
Really?
Like the Blu-rays? Yeah, surprisingly.
That's surprising. Because,
like, Lionsgate essentially, like, is putting out all of his stuff now.
Really?
Like, Kevin Smith stuff. So, like, they still make DVDs and Blu-rays. And I guess, like, a quote was, like, they sold Blu-rays and DVDs of Jay and Silent Bob reboot and apparently sold enough to reach out to him and say, we sold so many of these fucking DVDs and Blu-rays. If you ever want to do more of this Jay and Silent Bob bullshit, as long as it's under this price point, you know, go ahead and do it. And that's essentially, like, the whole reason why they're able to make Clerks 3. Yeah, which I was like, dude, that's awesome.
I mean, the Jay and Silent Bob reboot was, like, forgetable, but it was highly entertaining. Like, I really enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and defend it and say it was, like, you know, Citizen Kane, like, the greatest thing ever, but it was like comfort watch, you know. It was like,
it was funny.
It was nice to see, especially now that he's, like, sober and stuff, to see, like, Jay and Silent Bob.
Yep. And
Silent Bob, Kevin Smith lost a lot of weight after his heart attack, so he looks good too. So
yep. He lost all his weight crying those tears when he saw Millennium Falcon.
He's like, in every picture, Star Wars is alive. This is a real cool cat. I'm like, okay, dude. So I have another thing here that says Nicolas Cage is returning to Con Air 2.
No way.
Yeah, that's what I saw that.
Don't tease me like that.
That'd be legit.
That's one of my favorites.
I know, right? I have a quote here. Bruce Campbell says, the new Evil Dead Rise movie does not suck. That's a great way to...
He was also pimping the last Evil Dead reboot that did suck.
Yeah.
That was a waste, man.
Essentially, he said, it's exciting because it actually does not suck in the least. Lee Cronin did a great job. Original director Sam Raimi picks these director types who have had some great experience, but we can still sort of shove them into the Evil Dead box a little. And I'm like... I mean, they could... I don't know. My whole thing is like... I'm sure not everybody will agree with this, but like, to me, there is no Evil Dead without Bruce Campbell as Ash.
I agree.
So...
And even Sam Raimi directed an episode of the Ash vs. Evil Dead show.
He did like the pilot, and then they handed it off to other people. But like, it's kind of one of those things where it's like... I think they're trying to like... strike out on... I almost wonder if they're trying to strike out on these and see if they suck, so they can be like, well, why don't you bring back Bruce Campbell? Like, they've been wanting to, but... I don't know. I don't know why you would...
Sadly, I will see that new movie, but it's like Evil Dead in a high rise, which sounds kind of intriguing, but I'm sure it won't be very good.
Yeah. The problem with the Evil Dead franchise in general is it's like with most things, like horror movies or anything else, is it's like there's just all of these different things that aren't tied together, and it's like, what's the point of this shit? It's all just like fragmented. One of the reasons why I don't read comic books anymore, because like it's like you've got 50 different versions of a character, and it's like, who the fuck could possibly keep up unless you're like Scrooge McDuck, and have a lot of money.
Now I get it.
I was like, or I guess I could have said someone real, like Elon Musk or somebody. So we got a quote. Clint Eastwood refused James Bond role after Sean Connery. I guess he was offered it, and he said, "I was offered pretty good money to do James Bond if I would take on the role." To me, he recalled, well, that was somebody else's gig. He added that that's Sean Connery's deal. It didn't feel right to me to be doing it. But the funniest thing about this article was I copied this on here because I had to, it was one of those articles that they just put so much fluff in it that like it's like 10 pages long, and that's literally all they had to do. But it's
that's like known trivia. It's not like that's a new revelation.
But like this part cracked me up. Before long, they decided to hire the second ever James Bond actor, George Lazenby. However, they would come to rue this decision.
That's true.
I was like, Jesus. But I was like, it was just like the way it was written was so like, I don't know.
I think George Lazenby's cool.
He's definitely like the Austin Powers.
Yeah. And it's ironic that that's one of the best movies that he's in, and he's just not that great. But it's fun.
It's ironic.
They also,
and in some scenes, erotic.
I think it's funny. They also wanted Burt Reynolds at one point to play.
I remember hearing about that. Yeah.
I think he could have been good, but it would have been still weird.
I think
he's so American.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where obviously the whole thing with like James Bond being English is because he works for the English Secret Service, like MI6 or whatever. So like, but nowadays it's more so like everybody kind of works together. So it's kind of like England has been our allies for so long that it's like, I don't know. I still think it's like, I guess I wouldn't be against having somebody play James Bond that was like an American or an Australian. Even they wouldn't even have to. Yeah, they wouldn't even have to be like, put on an accent. They'd be themselves. Like they could be like the next James Bond, but like I know a lot of people would be against it. It's kind of like if they were to cast somebody that wasn't like English in Doctor Who, because that's like their, But I mean, look at like Robert Downey Jr. He played fucking Sherlock Holmes, and he was like one of the best Sherlock Holmes that they've had recently, in my opinion. Yep. Way better than the English-made Sherlock that was on BBC. That was like with what's his face, Benedict Cumberbatch and stuff, which I love. Yeah, I love those like actors, but it was like this is just heavy-handed dramatic bullshit.
Yeah, I watched a couple episodes and then bailed on that one.
First episode was like the closest they ever got to actually being like a crime kind of thing, where they solve crimes, and everything else was like, look how weird Sherlock is. It's like, dude, fuck off. Fuck on. Skinny and spinny. Fuck off. Fuck on, lover. Why don't you make me a lover? So now we've got that's pretty much all I have for nerd news. Okay. So what do we have any recommendation nations or buddies?
We do have a couple.
Okay.
Recommendation nation.
Thank you. give me like a second. I think I like flubbed it and fucking brought
if that logo would come up in time.
Did you see my face? I was like,
yeah. So I watched a couple shows on Apple Plus that I really enjoyed. One was The Shrink Next Door, starring your boy Will Ferrell and Paul Rudd.
Okay. One funny person.
Yeah, it's a comedy, but it's probably more of a drama. But basically, Will Ferrell plays like a very meek person, and he goes to therapy where Paul Rudd's his therapist. And he's super charming and friendly, but he's also like a horrible person, and he basically like cons him over the course of like 30 years and like ruins his life.
Oh, the therapist
Paul Rudd does. Yeah. But it's interesting because they become like best friends. Just basically just him using Will Ferrell because he's rich.
Oh.
And it's really...
He's like stretching out his therapy sessions and stuff,
Yep, and just Will Ferrell kind of just lets it happen because he's so mild-mannered.
Yeah.
And like, it was very cool and funny and weird.
Nice.
But even better was another new show called Severance. Have you heard about this? It has Adam Scott as the main character, but it has Christopher Walken and John Turturro.
Okay.
And some other really good actors, Patricia Arquette. But basically the premise is they all work for this weird, creepy company, and they have a procedure where once they go into work, at that moment they lose all of their memories of their entire life.
Oh, wow.
And they only know about what happened at work, and then when they leave, they lose all their memories of what happened at work.
And regain their...
Right. So they basically become two different people.
So it's essentially like a Men in Black kind of thing where like they separate, like, which I'm sure when they're at work, all kinds of like undercover shit happens. It's like the public can't know about. Like,
correct. The company is like very creepy and they don't know what they're really doing.
They're creepy.
Yeah. But it was awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
very well
that
done.
sounds like a dream job for an actor because it's like it gives you the chance to just do a hard switch on a character.
Yeah, and I don't know how they do it, but there's an effect where like when it happens, their faces somehow change a little bit, and it's like very subtle, but it's just very well done.
Nice.
I highly recommend Severance.
Nice, man.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Well, shit. 2 recommendations. Do we have any tales this week?
No, but we may get into some with our 2002 top 10s.
So, this week we're going to do, let's see, I'll do this. Should we do our top 5 now?
Yeah.
Top 5 2002 films, since this movie came out in 2002, and I couldn't really think of anything that would kind of correlate with this whole thing, so I just wore my 2002 attire that I used to wear back then. But yeah, you came up with this because like I couldn't think of anything either that would be like what, because it was like the show and then like this other thing about dragons. I was like, I'm gonna do like top 5 dragons, top 5 dragons, like
Smaug.
Shot. So I guess we'll get right into it, man.
Yeah,
is that cool?
Let's do it.
Okay. Oh, I guess I'll go first since it is Mike week.
Let's do it.
So I had to like honestly look. Did you have to look online to see what movies came out in 2002?
Yes.
I didn't know off the top of my head. So number 5 for me would be Dog Soldiers.
Dude, that's my number 5
is
as
it?
well. Wow, amazing.
There were some great movies that came out this year, honestly.
Yeah,
I was kind of shocked at like I was like, what the hell? But yeah, like number 5, Dog Soldiers, great film.
One of the best werewolf movies ever.
I'm sure we'll probably watch it and talk about it, but like it's when I saw it, I was like blown away, and I'm sure it gets a lot of praise among like horror fans, but it didn't get a lot of like mainstream praise. I don't think, sadly.
Yeah,
because I'd put it up there with American Werewolf in London for like
I would too, and The Howling.
Yeah,
those are the top 3.
There's not very many good werewolf movies that have good effects too, so it's like. Where I guess there's not many werewolf movies that have good effects, because if it's a great werewolf movie, it probably does have good effects. Like, this movie's great, but the effects suck cock.
Cool.
So, yeah, that was, I guess we got number 5 out of the way.
Yeah, amazing.
Number 4.
Hang on.
Oh, sorry. You're like, I don't have it.
Go ahead.
I was like,
I'm like,
what?
My number 5 is also Dog Soldiers.
I was like,
I screwed up.
Did you just lie? No, hang on. Wait. Number 4, Bubba Hotep.
That's my number 3.
Is it?
Yeah, we're pretty close.
Nice.
Wow. It's almost like we have similar tastes.
Wow.
Bubba Hotep is a classic.
It was,
an amazing
yeah.
movie. And the greatest commentary
yes.
of all time.
Yeah. Bruce Campbell plays Elvis Presley. And in the commentary, he plays Elvis Presley.
The entire time.
And in character, it's like, I was like, what the fuck is this? But it was like, I was blown away. It's like I put it up there with like the Kevin Smith commentaries and the John Carpenter and Kurt Russell Laserdisc commentaries that were put on DVD. Yeah. And I'm trying to think of any other really, because like there have been commentary. I've listened to a lot of commentaries, but some of them are kind of like that really wasn't worth it. It was kind of boring. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just get a technical facts, which like is entertaining. It's interesting, but it's not like an experience.
Some of the worst are like the Jay Roach commentaries on Austin Powers. He's very boring to listen to, and not funny at all. It's very weird. I find that kind of the same with like I love the Lord of the Rings movies are great, but like some of the like they go up so much technical stuff that some of it's kind of like it's really interesting to hear it, but it's definitely not something I would be like, dude, you got to listen to this if you're just a regular person. But what's your number 4? Well, I love movies where like you get to see people who are really good at their jobs. And in this movie, Pistachio Disguisey is a master of disguise.
Nice, man.
Not really.
Oh.
Master of Disguise is one of the dumbest, worst movies I've ever seen, but it's amazing to watch.
Is it number 4?
No, my real number 4 is The Transporter, starring Jason Statham.
Oh, okay. I saw that on
action movie,
I saw that was on there and stuff, but I don't know if I've ever seen it before.
It's really good.
I've seen the other one that I know him from, where maybe it is The Transporter.
Crank,
yeah, like where they made a sequel to it, even though at the end of Crank, I think doesn't he like die or something? But who cares? But yeah, that was a good one. But I need to see that one. I haven't. I remember it was like a huge thing. That was kind of his big like holy shit, Jason Statham.
The sequels are not very good, but the original I think is an awesome action movie.
Yeah, I mean it's legit.
And it was like I think it was the first time I really he had like a starring role.
Yeah, he kind of like came into his own. Like everybody was like, holy shit, Jason Statham is a bona fide like action star.
Right.
Like he can hang with these other people. So
right.
Yeah. So I guess we know what your number 3 is.
Yeah. How about you?
Sam Raimi's Spider-Man.
Nice.
The first one. Even though I think the second one's better, when this first one came out, it like blew me away, and I think a lot of people were the same way. They were like, because Sam Raimi like actually, it was kind of like when Tim Burton did Batman. It was like he took the source material and actually gave a shit about it.
Yeah.
Whereas like nowadays all of these Marvel movies are kind of like the same. Like this one was like. This and X-Men kind of started that, and even though the X-Men movies kind of got shit, like, and I guess Spider-Man 3 was shit, but like Spider-Man when it first came out, it was like, this made you be like, holy crap, this is the first time that like superhero movies could actually be critically acclaimed and actually get like make money again, because like after Batman, like after they did like the later ones, they kind of like shit the bed, and, But
yeah, that was such a huge movie.
I remember it came out, and it was also like really cool because it had Willem Dafoe in it as Green Goblin and stuff, and like Bruce Campbell was in it as like the announcer and all this other really cool stuff they just put in the film. And like I remember there was a scene where Macy Gray performs, and she literally didn't do anything else. She had that one song, and then it was just like, but she was.
I try to say
goodbye. She was in that one scene because she was relevant in that one time period. And it's like she was.
That's always funny.
Performing for this Thanksgiving Day parade, and like Stan Lee pulls like this kid out of the way, even though he could have just walked 2 feet or 2 steps and been fine. He's like, watch out! And I'm like, first time I remember seeing him in like a cameo. But yeah, great film.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, and like number 3, like you said, Bubba Hotep. We talked about. You have to see that movie if you haven't seen it, because it's also cool because it's not just like he plays him, like he plays Elvis Presley. There's supernatural stuff that's happening too, so it's very interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, number 2, I guess.
Yeah.
Austin Powers and Goldmember.
Nice. I remember being kind of disappointed because I didn't think it was quite as good as the first two. But
it was better than the second one, but
Yeah.
it wasn't as good as the first one.
Yeah, but it's still great.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Austin Power, Dr. Evil has like, I remember thinking like it was the one where they really started to like not give a shit as much with Dr. Evil's like makeup, because like in the first one he has that like big kind of like scar, and then they kind of didn't even do, because like I think they wanted like he was playing like 4 characters in this movie now, so they were like, you know, so like, and he also had like, they must have changed contacts because he had super blue fucking eyes, which I thought was really weird. But the jokes I feel like were pretty great when they landed. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we talked about Austin Powers 1, 2, and 3 in the Matt and Mike podcast experience, which is in one of our it's on a playlist on the channel here. So
yeah,
if you guys ever want to check out us talking, I think for like 2 or 3 hours about Austin Powers films, that's in there.
Yeah, cool.
What's your number 2?
Well, back in 2002, we'd seen the Crocodile Hunter on TV, but we'd never seen him on a collision course.
I saw this on the thing, and I was just like, "Is this your real number 2?"
No, but we watched that, I think, at your house.
Yeah, I remember I had it, and fucking Tony wanted to watch it. He was like, "Dude,
fun.
We gotta fucking watch this shit." And I was like, "Damn it," because I'd already seen it, and it's literally like, him trying to save a crocodile from these poachers. And the best part about it, though, is that they switch Elton John's Crocodile Rockin' to a Crocodile Hunter like song.
Yeah.
Oh my Crocky, it's Friday night, catching crocs all night. Yeah. It's like, what?
Did the Baha Men do that?
It might have been, yeah.
For some reason, I remember that was the Baha Men.
Baha Men was also big back in the day, too, like around that time. Yeah. Dude, that's awesome.
But my real number 2 is Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers.
Nice.
That might be my favorite of the 3, but they're all great.
Yeah. Unlike Star Wars 2, which is like the worst of the 3. But yet, I mean, do you have anything to say about Lord of the Rings?
I mean, it's what can you say at this point?
Yeah. One of the most disappointing franchises.
After
one of the most no-name franchises.
Well, it's like The Hobbit was so bad, and it was made by the same team. It made me question, like, are the originals actually that good, or like were we all fooled because they also made this?
Yeah, the new ones were just shit.
Terrible crap.
Yeah. But speaking of Star Wars Attack of the Clones, I have a list of dishonorable mentions. Films that came out in 2002 that people may disagree, but I find to be some of the most loathsome shits. A lot of them are seconds or sequels, shockingly. Star Wars Attack of the Clones, Star Trek Nemesis.
That was going to be another of my joke answers.
8 Crazy Nights with Adam Sandler.
I've never seen that.
Die Another Day.
Yeah.
Halloween Resurrection.
Saw that in theaters for some reason.
Men in Black 2.
Oh, brutal.
Yeah. American Psycho 2.
That was amazing.
The one that me and you watched with
Shatner?
Trav and Mark.
William Shatner.
Stop.
And
And
Mila
address.
Kunis.
It's like, what? The Time Machine. I remember watching that and being like, oh my god. I did have Signs down here, but that was like before The Village came out and was like, now this is the real shit. And The Mothman Prophecies. That movie
Really
was
disappointing.
Yeah, that movie was super disappointing.
Yep.
I had a joke pick here for number 1. Kung Pao Enter the Fist. But
That's a funny movie.
That movie was great. It was funny. Yeah.
The joke kind of wore thin after a while, though. It was like...
Yeah, it's essentially like Thumb Wars or something. Like, essentially like some dudes just... They took like a film and just dubbed over everything. And it was like, this is funny, but yeah, there were parts that didn't really land. And it was like... Ugh. Anyway, so my real number 1 is Spirited Away.
Okay.
One of the greatest films ever made, in my opinion.
I have seen that one.
It is a great film. That was one that like Siskel and Ebert were like, yeah.
Yeah, I know Ebert was all over some of the like
anything
Princess
like
Mononoke.
Ghibli. Yeah, I think the first thing I ever heard from him about any of these films was like Kiki's Delivery Service, which I was, I was glad I guess that he liked it, but at the same time, there are a lot of films that he's talked about that I was like, that movie was actually good. But whatever. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else I can say about it. It's like Lord of the Rings. It's like, I'm sure there are people out there that haven't heard of it before, but even though it's animated, it's still, I know a lot of people have aversion to watching animated stuff, but like, I'd put it up there with any movie ever made as like one of the greatest films ever created.
I just like how it's unique. Like there's nothing like that movie. Totally original. Yeah.
I was watching it and I was like, yo, unbelievable. Wow. Dun, 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 dun. So you said what was your joke number one again, you said?
It was going to be Star Trek.
Oh, yeah.
But my real number one
Star Trek
had a concept that was so amazing, it took over the nation by storm. Gun kata.
I was like, I hear another joke. Number one is just Equilibrium.
Yeah. See our previous episode.
Yeah, I saw that on the list and I didn't put it on here because that one was actually entertaining.
But I guess you're going to be more shocked by my real number one because it's Signs. Like, I didn't know that you hated that movie because I love that movie and I think it's perfection. Okay. So good. It's my favorite Shyamalan by far. And, yeah.
By far? Even better than the one with Bruce Willis?
Sixth Sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or not the Sixth Sense, the one where he's
Unbreakable.
Yeah.
I think Signs is great. It's super scary and funny and just like before, but I do agree, like The Village was like the downward turn.
I think for a lot of people it was maybe, I don't know, everybody has their own opinion on that. Like I didn't absolutely hate Signs, I just thought it was very okay.
I just love the concept of having a invasion movie where you don't really see, it's from the perspective of like inside one house. That was unique at the time for me.
I think a lot of people, it was like, didn't make any sense, but I like that idea though. Like I'm with you on that. But
the fact that he keeps having characters whose vulnerability is water, like over and over again.
Well, aliens that come to attack a planet that's 80% water, and then they're like, wait a minute.
That doesn't bother me, honestly. That never bothered me. Actually, I thought the movie was good enough. I suspended all disbelief.
Things that make sense don't bother you.
Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't hate it. I just thought it wasn't as good as his previous films. And by that point, I was kind of done with the whole, like, shocked thing with M. Night Shyamalan. Like, M. Night Shyamalan as a director overall is not good. Like, he's not, like, in my opinion, I don't think he's, like, a Quentin Tarantino.
Well, he's proven that over, like...
Right. But, like...
He, like, got lucky somehow with his first few. And
well, that's I think that was the thing, is, like, he kept coming out with, like... films and
talk about failing upward.
Essentially,
like how many abominations, like shockingly, unbelievably bad movies has he made? Like one after another.
Yeah, they keep getting worse and worse. But I think the biggest issue was not that like Signs was bad, and some people thought Signs was bad, or some people thought Village was bad. It was that like essentially from the very first movie, it was like the only thing he had to offer was what's going to happen at the end of this film. Like, what's going to be, like, the twist or the shocking moment. And it's like, that's fine to get, to keep people hooked. But if literally that's all you ever do. I'm assuming what he did was he came up with, like, what should be a shocking thing in a movie. And then he created a movie around that. Because you can tell even every movie he's ever made, even, like, Signs or, like, his earlier films are all like that. Where it's like...
But in those early movies, I think the dialogue was good, and like he got really good, some of the best performances of their people's careers in like Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, Signs. Yeah, like I think Signs is Mel Gibson's greatest performance, like his best acting of his career.
Yeah, you want to move on?
Let's move on
before I start shitting everywhere.
Please do.
Okay. So, speaking of a weird selection, let's go to Weird Watches, which, in fact, it was For All Mankind. So this film... Or, like you said, this dick. Look at this deer in the backyard. What a dick. Eating all the damn leaves. Those are mine.
Get off my lawn.
For All Mankind. I just heard about this a while back and was like, oh, I like science fiction, so
I knew one of the writers behind Next Generation was like the showrunner.
Oh, really?
Ronald Moore.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
What? Wait, yeah.
He's a genius.
Roger D. Moore.
Ronald.
But yeah, this came out in 2019. So essentially the premise is, in an alternate version of 1969, the Soviet Union beats the United States to the moon, and the space race continues on for decades with still grander challenges and goals.
What a concept.
I know, right?
Yeah.
What a concept.
So I'll just get it out of the way. I love this show. I think it's probably the best thing we've watched so far in Weird Watches.
Jesus.
Even better than Puchinsky.
Well, there you have it.
Well, you didn't like it?
No.
Why not?
We're going to be off on everything this entire...
Our top 10s lined up pretty well until the end and went off the rails.
You fucked me. No, I didn't necessarily, like, hate this. I just thought that, like... I thought that it took, like... It was another thing where, like... Kind of like the one we watched last week where, like, The Outer Range, where I was like... It had a cool concept, but a lot of the time was spent on... Like, they set it up where I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And then it was like, okay, are we... Like, I guess, like, it was cool to find out that, like, in later seasons and stuff, like... You know, like, they ramp up and, like, eventually they get to a place, I think, where, like, they're farther along and stuff than we are now, I would assume, because if they keep racing towards stuff. But, like, I think I would have liked to have seen that happen sooner. Like, maybe, like, there'd be, like, a time jump in the first episode.
You're just impatient to see what happens next.
I was waiting for something to happen.
Something to happen? Neil Armstrong crashed on the moon, dude. I was riveted.
Yeah.
I think it's a great concept. I thought it was super entertaining. It wasn't perfect. I thought some of the, like, speeches were very lame, and, like, a writer thought he was, like, making some profound statements.
It's like Star Trek.
Yeah.
Essentially, Next Generation. It's like whenever Picard gives a speech.
You got a problem with Picard's speeches now?
No, it's just the same shit. I don't know how you could say that they're any different. Because, like, I like Picard, definitely. But it's, like, it's that very, like, I'm going to stand up and make a speech. Mm-hmm. And it's going to inspire everybody, which is fine. But it's, like... It's
fine, but when it's every other scene, it can get annoying.
But it's, like, essentially, Picard did that all the time, too. Which I liked, but it was, like... Okay. So, essentially, they use, like, footage from, like, back in, like, Nixon and stuff like that as well to, like... and have some, like, Nixon impersonator.
I'm not a crook.
He's just like, they're not going to pin this failure on Nixon. Not Nixon. And I was like, not true. I was, like, cracking up about that.
Did he say not true?
No, but, like, he was just like, not Nixon. Not Nixon. And I was just like, what? He's like, not true. A dude tells everybody to, like, go home and come back Monday morning, go home and kick their dog if they need to. And I was like, there you have it.
Don't do that. Don't do that, guys. Not really.
And then dudes were, like, racing to the I guess it's like the NASA bar.
Yeah.
Like Mario
in their
Kart,
Corvettes,
trying to get into a wreck, essentially, to not pay for beer. And then somebody plays a record on the jukebox, and it's like the Cosby Show season 6 intro. It was like, wah, wah, ner, 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 ner. And I was like, dude, this is fucking legit. The one guy, like, fucked up hardcore though, because, like, they had this, like, friend that was a reporter, and he's like, come on guys, I just want a statement. And he was just like, do you think you could have gotten to the moon first? You know, you were inches away from it or whatever.
Tells it like it is.
And I was just like, that discussion is bullshit. They're like, you know, Apollo 10 should have landed instead of just scouting things out. And I'm like, well, like, in hindsight, you know what I mean? Like, this would have never even happened. Like, what kind of argument was that even to begin with?
What do you mean?
Like,
it didn't happen. It's
no,
alternate history.
No, I'm saying, like, he was saying, like, what if, you know, on Apollo 10, instead of scouting it out for Apollo 11, you guys actually landed? Like, you know, did you think you could have and stuff? And I was like, well, yeah, but, like, that's kind of like, that's playing, like, a what if You know what I mean? It's kind of a stupid argument to like make those guys get into, because it's like not like the show people, but like the reporter, because it was like, well, yeah, but like you could have said that about like any of them that got close to the moon. They could have just landed, and then it wouldn't even have been a thing. Yeah. Yeah, I have this guy gives the speech of his life.
Yeah, that was a little bit heavy-handed and not great. That was my biggest complaint about this show. But I will definitely be checking out the rest of this show. I was super intrigued. The characters are awesome. The premise is very exciting. And I don't know what's going to happen next.
I don't give a shit.
Sorry you didn't like it, man. I'm surprised.
Yeah, me too.
Enjoy it.
I was looking forward to science fiction, and I got science fact.
No, you didn't. It's like you wanted the science fact, and you got science.
I wanted science entertainment.
I was highly entertained.
Seems like Mad Men NASA style.
Which that sounds like the greatest show.
And I was
made.
like, "Where's the hook?" Each episode, but
I think you were grumpy when you were watching this show.
No, I think I'm grumpy now.
I know you're grumpy now
because you just told me you like science.
Ruined the entire episode.
Yeah, because you like shit. No, I don't know. Like I like the idea, but I was like, this is. I mean, I wouldn't have picked it if I thought it was going to be a bad, you know what I mean, like thing. It was just kind of like, I think I was kind of it was kind of like when we were watching Warehouse 13. I was like, this is a really cool idea, but it was just taking so long. I was like, okay, like I know it's going to be like good later on probably, but I have to judge it on like the first episode, and like even though they kind of set it up for like, you know, obviously like a hook and stuff for like you know, like to be like, oh, like what, you know, these guys crash landed on like the moon and they lived and stuff. I was kind of like, okay, you know,
yeah, fine. that hooked me in, man. I can tell you, like, I was almost on the verge of tears, like when you hear like that Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin had survived the crash. I was like, dude, this is like, I was so into it. It was like a powerful moment. So yeah, guess we're not lining up on this one.
Yeah,
but maybe we will.
Maybe we will for an actual
on Reign of Fire.
Reign of Fire.
Because I have some questions.
Yeah, like why?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, maybe we will line up. Let's see. Let's just go to the next one before I kill myself. Reign of Fire. So Reign of Fire, 2002 is when this movie came out. Post-apocalyptic science fantasy, whatever, dude.
I see another tagline.
Yeah,
they're extremely intelligent, highly evolved, and they don't like sharing the planet.
That's what I said earlier.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
No, I missed it.
You weren't listening, as usual. You weren't listening to me. So
the battle ignites July 12th.
The battle ignites July 30th over fucking For All Mankind. So essentially this movie, came out, and it starred Matthew McConaughey, Christian Bale, and a bunch of other people. Gerard, Butler, and then the dude from Deep Space Nine, Julian Bashir, plays the radio operator. Alexander Siddig. So the film
and Izabella Scorupco from Goldeneye.
So I was like, who gives a shit? The film
she was Natalia from Goldeneye.
Sounds good.
Do we need to do a take two?
No. I'm seeing red.
Why?
This film is set in England in the year 2020. Like I said earlier, two years before today.
Yeah.
Exactly. So apparently, yeah, it's like in the beginning of this, they like inadvertently awaken dragons, and like they just kind of like take over and just start whooping ass, and it's like there's really like nobody left on Earth.
Quinn Abercrombie, his mom,
right? Quinn.
His mom screwed up.
You remembered, the name, because I was like, ugh.
I did not remember the name. I'm looking.
I was like, wait, what?
Like, you know, the great character Quinn Abercrombie.
Yeah, Denton Von Zahn, Matthew McConaughey. I guess we'll go over the soundtrack here because there's literally like 4 tracks. Fire, written and performed by Jimi Hendrix.
Very clever.
Yeah. Interlude, one by Mad at Gravity. Burn, which is the end theme by Mad at Gravity.
So clever.
Walk Away, written by Mad at Gravity. So, yeah, like when I texted you and was like, what'd you think about the end theme? It was very like...
It was very 2002?
I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I thought you would be like, dude, this is the greatest song I've ever heard.
I liked it.
Yeah. It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
It was like, I wish I had the lyrics here for it, but it was funny.
So why'd you pick this one? What made you...
It was kind of
Had you seen it before?
No. It was like, For All Mankind. It was just something that I thought looked interesting.
Yeah.
And I wanted to kind of like... Because, like,
It is interesting.
Like, when I had my last pick, I picked, like, both Mario things that I'd already seen, and I kind of wanted to just do, like, a extravaganza where I talk about all of them and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Just gush over them. Whereas, essentially, this, I was, like, going in blind. I had no fucking clue, like, what I was going to think about either one of these. But the reason why I picked this is because I was, like... I remember hearing about this film, but, like... never really like looking into it at all because I was like, dragons like in modern day, it seems interesting, but it's also like that seems like a straight to DVD kind of thing. But then later on, I was like, wait, it had like Christian Bale, Gerard, Butler, like Matthew McConaughey. It had like a huge cast, especially looking back now. It's like, holy shit, dude! Like,
yeah,
as far as like actors that are like getting any one of these people into your movie now would be like a huge get. So it was just kind of like, yeah, shocking.
Yeah. So I'd seen this once before, and
Did you see it in theaters?
No, but I was excited about it, but not excited enough to see it in theaters.
Right.
Obviously, and I caught up with it probably on VHS or DVD.
You caught up with it. It was like rotting from you. You were like,
I thought it was good, not great.
Yeah,
and that's kind of what I think now. It's not horrible. I think it's pretty entertaining.
I think like it's definitely like what's the word? Like there are things about it that are
it's got some things going for it.
Generic, but then there are things that aren't generic about it. Yeah, I guess we'll get into it. But it's like at the beginning of this film though, it was very like weird because they had like a young boy like in a foreboding score, and like his parents were dead. It was like Batman style. I was like, what? And it was supposed to be Christian Bale. I was like, okay, dude, like, what the fuck?
Christopher Nolan was watching this movie like,
A young Christopher Nolan takes notes. I guess it would be young because he's probably
like
on the same time. He's younger than... I
always like when Alice Krieg shows up as the mom, a.k.a. the Borg Queen.
Yeah.
She's always
She's in it for like 5 seconds before
she gets roasted.
Borked for no reason.
Munched.
She dies to like air. But like they torch their cigs and fire extinguisher to cool beers in where they were digging down there, and I'm like, shocking that dragons got loose due to the safety. So a boy gets rejected. The boy, not Vance Sand, it's Christian Bale's character. What's his name? Fucking...
Quinn Abercrombie.
I don't think I ever wrote down his name. I just said Christian
Did they
Bale.
ever say it? I couldn't even remember.
I'm sure throughout the movie they did, but it's like, I don't think I ever remember people's names usually unless it's like...
Gerard Butler as Creedy. Okay.
He's like, I'm Creedy. But like, he gets rejected for a scholarship. It's worth like $3,000, and it would be worth $4,941 today.
Wow! You put in the man hours to do the research
for that one bit. They hit a void with a dragon in it, and like the kid goes in and like it's like spits in his eyes, and he's like, yeah, they're like red as fuck. And the only people to like really survive for a little bit are like the mom and the son, and like. They're going up this elevator, and the dragon comes out, and like the boy's completely fine, but like he looks over, and his mom's just like she dies to like nothing. It's like, nope, she's dead.
It's like what's his name from Godzilla, Bryan Cranston. It's like has a minor injury, and it was
Yeah.
like, oh, he'll be okay. And the next scene, they're like zipping him up in
it's
a body
like
bag.
a loaded weapon when they zip up. What's his name? He's like, guys, I'll be in the sequel, right? And they're like, yep. And like, zip him up. Yeah, it was. I was like, what? She must have just been there for the day.
Yeah.
So then, speaking of speeches, like in For All Mankind, they have like, just like they did with the other Christian Bale movie that we watched,
Equilibrium.
There's like a thing at the beginning.
So, yeah.
I've kept this for years because someday it will be up to you. I don't want to be afraid, or I don't want you to be afraid. I don't want to be afraid. I want you to understand, knowledge is the only weapon we've got left. In the beginning, it was ignorance that destroyed us. And I'm like, actually, it was probably the dragons. Because even if they knew, they still were getting reamed.
They should have had knowledge of fictional creatures.
I'm getting reamed.
But they were ignorant.
I saw the first, but soon the world saw millions. If there were millions of dragons, you wouldn't have had a chance anyway. Like, no one knew how they spawned.
Good thing they're all females.
Yeah, except for one.
Yeah.
Sounds like a great way to have a species. They swarmed like locusts, burning everything in their path, driven by one purpose, to feed. Even then, we couldn't believe they were real. Ancient man had made them into myths, but nature had made something far more terrible. Too late, our scientists discovered their true identity, a species which had burned the dinosaurs to dust, whose ash had brought it on ice ages, who, in eons past... Who writes this shit down?
I know, like, content, like, that's a first draft. Now take another pass and, like, cut half that crap
We're
out.
to think that, like, Christian Bale wrote this down somewhere? Like, the character for someone else to read eventually?
Yeah.
Had scorched the world clean of fire, then starved and slept, waiting for the earth to replenish itself, waiting to start their cycle anew. Our weapon shot fire back at them. Yet, for every one of them we killed, 100 took its place. They seemed invulnerable. We could only look...
You could have just said that.
This
like
is
that
so
one
ridiculous.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Good God. We could only look on as our leaders used their greatest arsenal to destroy them, but in the end, we only helped them. Till the world burned, and the few of us that were left fled the cities, found shelter where we could. You have to understand our past because you will decide our future. They're starving now, and they're more dangerous than ever. But we'll have to go on. We'll have to outlast them.
Good
Only
Lord.
one species is getting out of this alive.
That's crazy.
Only one audience member is waking up. Dude, so the whole thing of, like, dragons, like, the whole idea is really cool, but, like, the way they were like, yeah, there's only one male, that's very stupid for a fucking species to, not only that, but, like, for a species to, like, essentially kill out their everything so they would have nothing left to feed on, and now they're starving is, like, what kind of fucking evolution is this? Like, this, it makes zero sense for this to ever exist.
So I'll pepper in some Roger Ebert because he hated this movie. He gave it 1 star and bashed it. But he said...
He mashed it with his cock.
We cannot believe what happens in the movie. And we cannot believe...
We cannot believe!
And we cannot believe that the movie was made. Which, I believe the movie was made. Like, it's a cool idea. Like, pretty much all I knew about this going in was, like, helicopters versus dragons. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm on board for that. Sounds cool.
As you said last week.
Yeah.
Whoever wins, we lose. It's like, what?
Wait, actually...
I cannot believe this movie was made. It's like, how?
He also, picked apart nitpicks about how there could only be one male and millions of females. Like, just logistically, that makes no sense. But at some point, we should talk about Van Zandt, Matthew McConaughey.
Hell yeah, dude. We'll get to him.
Roger Ebert says, he describes the character and says, he is bald and bearded. And in his zealot's eyes focus in the middle distance as he speaks. He's the kind of tough guy who smokes cigar butts. Not cigars, butts.
What? Makes sense.
There you go.
Yeah, we'll talk about him more later on.
Yep.
So, yeah, as we said earlier, this takes place in 2020 in, Northumberland, England. They're in, like, a castle. And they're putting on a play for children as Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, but they're like the black and white knight, and he's like taking the credit like he came up with it, which I thought was funny. It reminded me of Dr. Evil.
I wrote that.
Yeah, where he's like, "What if God was one of us?" And he's like, "I wrote that."
Yeah,
like
exactly.
He went back in time and took credit for shit that already happened. Or not already happened, is yet to happen.
But I've never seen an audience like so riveted as those
Yeah.
kids were in that show. They were like,
George Lucas wrote this shit for all time. We've got an audience member. Sneaking out against Bale's orders, there's this dude that like goes out and he wants to harvest the crops. Yeah, that was a fuck up. I like the sets. They're like very like they're real. So it's like
me too.
And stuff.
Real. It was very
It
cool.
felt like very apocalyptic, obviously, but like they did a good job of it. Whereas like some things that are like this is supposed to be apocalyptic, like you feel like it's not. You're like, I don't feel like the plight here of these people. The greedy bastards get the field burned. They get killed, but not enough. There was a funny part though when they're like leaving in the trucks and like one lady's like using the gun or whatever on top and she gets just roasted. And I'm like, why were you up there? The other guy had a fire suit and he was up there. You didn't. And she's like, wow. It's like you could have just not been up there.
Did you think the dragons were cool in this movie?
Yeah.
They're cool.
I thought like they were cool. It's definitely like there's definitely some scenes where it's a little dodgy with the CG, but it's also like it's definitely better than like a lot of other stuff we've seen.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's great, but in some scenes it's like it seems just like they didn't complete the shading or like the lighting on it to make it fit in with the background.
Yeah. Some of the animated smoke was a little bit off.
But like a lot of the other stuff was completely fine.
Yep.
There's like a part here where like Creedy's like, it's my own black label, aged 2 weeks in a steel barrel. Now the secret's swallowing fast. That way it only burns your stomach and not your throat. And I was like, malt beer. I was like, what? So he makes his own like drink or
moonshine or whiskey.
So
what do you think of Christian Bale in this movie?
Good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think even if the movie was straight up shit, him, Gerard, Butler, and Matthew McConaughey would have been fine. I mean, I don't think they've ever been in a film where like even if the film was shit, they didn't give it their all. You know what I mean?
Even Equilibrium.
Yeah.
He was acting his butt off.
Yeah.
But still, his greatest performance, I think, is that rant from Terminator Salvation. You're gonna trash your lights!
Not actually a performance, but...
So intense.
But yeah, like, speaking of comparing apocalyptic failure to actual apocalypse setting, like, that movie looked like shit, and this movie actually looks like apocalypse. It's like, and that's a Terminator film, which should look like hell. Anyway, Christian Bale is taking it surprisingly well that all the crops got burned. He's like, maybe he was right. And I was like, okay.
Like, dude, you're going to starve.
Dude. News headlines over the years. Europe's capital cities in ruins. Rome, London, Paris, all destroyed in days. This actually, like, kind of impressed me that they went through the work to, like, actually mock up, like, a magazine that he had that had all these, like, articles in it. Like, millions of people killed in an international state of emergency that's been declared. Inferno, is this the end? Thousands die. Europe and NATO confront a deadly new threat. Firestorm sweeps Midwest. Farms destroyed. Florence Cathedral destroyed. Paris in flames. Young boy survives Inferno. His parents were killed in Crime Alley by Joker Dragon.
Nice.
I was like, But yeah, it was just like, I don't know. It's funny because like if they had just done something like this in the intro, it would have been better than what
that
they
terrible
ended
speech.
The speech, which like so they did. It's weird because usually you do one or both. Well, in this they did do both, but you do one or the other. In this they did both, so it was like. I already talked about the radio operator Julian Bashir. Alexander Siddig.
Yeah, it was cool to see him. I haven't seen him in too much other stuff.
Yeah, it's sad. You see, he was in that, and then he was in Game of Thrones from the later seasons.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Nice.
But like, Yeah, you don't see him in a bunch of stuff really. Sadly, I think he kind of like stopped doing acting for a bit. Maybe I don't know.
Did you read his quote from the trivia?
Who?
What's his name? Dr. Bashir?
Oh shit! No, I didn't actually look up any of the trivia. I fucked up.
Is now the time?
You can.
So, he was interviewed in 2015, and they asked about this movie,
and he's like, "Was I in it?"
And he said the first AD came into our trailer and was like, "Guys, I need your attention, please." And we were like, "Yeah." And he said, "Mr. McConaughey is going to arrive to set in about 15 minutes, and I have to give you a directive, which comes from the producers, that you are not to call him Matthew or Mr. McConaughey, or anything with real life. You must call him Van Zandt. And if you meet him outside on the road, even if you meet him in town, you must call him Van Zandt." And then he said, as he was walking away, I shouted, "Well, he's got to call me Elvis." But he didn't call me Elvis.
What?
So McConaughey was pretty into this one. I guess he gets into character pretty hardcore.
I wonder if he used a walker and took like 5 hours to get to
people
piss.
Wheel him into the bathroom.
Like fucking Mr.
Jared
Morbius.
Leto.
Dr. Michael Morbius over here.
I mean, I'm all for people getting in, like taking it seriously and getting into character, but when you're forcing other people to like not be able to do their jobs, that's a bit much.
To me, it's like I think I would be like, you know, as soon as like I'm on set and if we're in character and we're like practicing our lines or like, you know, when they yell action, obviously, but like I wouldn't be like, "Hey, you got to call me fucking Van Sant," when like
even
in town or something, or we're like having lunch together. It's like, okay. Unless he decided that he was going to be that character for the rest of his life, like that was going to be an alternate ego for him, like Chris Gaines for Garth Brooks. But
yeah,
usually when you give yourself a nickname or some shit, it doesn't work.
And I always find it funny when like people are so intense about a movie that's like very silly. Like if they were making Citizen Kane 2, that'd be one thing, but even Christian Bale in that, like you're making a horrible Terminator movie and you're
flipping out about it for no reason. Yeah. Whereas like Tom Cruise is making like the 50th Mission Impossible and he was flipping out just because people weren't following safety protocols, which is totally understandable.
Yep. Agreed.
So we've got, speaking of Matthew McConaughey, the Marauders arrive, and his veiny bald head pops out of the tank.
Dude, I had to watch that twice because I was like, "Are those veins real?"
Yeah.
Like, holy!
He must have been like fucking totally going, and then he pops out, and then it's like for the rest of the movie, I really don't see those. So I was like, did he just have like a tiny fucking? He had like a little constipation before he came out. Only thing worse than a dragon. Americans.
Oh.
Do you believe that?
Maybe.
Ah.
No, I don't believe
it. It could be. It depends. Matthew McConaughey, the freaking acting contest over here with him and
him and Bale.
Yeah.
Apparently,
I think they probably loved that because it was like that seems like they're very intense people.
Yeah. So I like both of them in this movie. I appreciated McConaughey like going for it in this one. And there's another piece of trivia where Christian Bale like he lost a ton of weight for this movie because he thought like in this world the characters would be like very skinny.
It makes sense, yeah.
But then McConaughey showed up and he was like
jacked.
a beefcake.
Yeah.
And so he's like, "Oh crap!" And he like tried to bulk up as quick as he could to like compete with McConaughey.
Well, it's like it makes sense for the army guys to be like ripped and jacked because they're, especially if like in this they're going around and killing dragons, like they're they're like literally on the edge of a razor, and like obviously you know like Christian Bale is like, you know, they're living, they're surviving and stuff, but it's like, and they're doing stuff that's like physical all the time, but they're always talking about how they need more food. So it's like, if that's the case, then they probably wouldn't have as much. So they would probably be smaller. They would still be like in shape, but they wouldn't be like, you know.
Yeah.
Like Van Sant in this, he wears like a fucking, like a bomber jacket that he cut the sleeves off of in fucking England or Scotland or wherever the hell they are, where it's usually cold as shit and raining. They
show off those guns, man.
They drove from like America, like on tanks, and And he's got like a scarf or something, and like like he's definitely doing the whole like cigar like Sarge shit.
He's also like on the verge of tears, like he's so intense, like his eyes are tearing up, and I was like, dude, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, this guy is like essentially, he's so he can taste the what's it called, like the end of being like of killing all the dragons. Like he can taste the
victory.
Yeah.
So I sent you that text. I was like, he's going for the super Oscar in this one.
Yeah. Usually you send that to me and it's bullshit, but I was like, I agree. Usually it's a joke when you send that to me. You're like, but like this time I was like, yeah, he was going for something here. Too bad all these other badass movies came out and overshadowed like that movie, because like I think a lot of people didn't even hear about this film.
Yeah, it just kind of came and went. It was not a huge hit or anything.
But yeah, like it was kind of a holy shit moment in this though when the helicopter shows up out of nowhere. It was like, you know, years have gone by with no one in the sky because obviously like they're dragons and stuff, and you don't want to be flying around. And then one just shows up, and Christian Bale was like looking at it for like 20 years. He was like,
I thought it was really cool. Matthew McConaughey was like talking about, I forget what scene it was, but he's talking about like where they've been, and he's like, we came through a month of mist. And I was like, I thought that was such a cool, like, I was intrigued by what that meant, and like they didn't describe it. It's just like it was a month of mist.
It's like,
so now I want a prequel.
I'm like, no shit, you're fucking going through like England and Scotland, like it's like shit weather 24/7 over there. He's like, month of mist. It's like, huh? They had this cool
month
like
of mist. Mike got pissed on this episode.
I'll drink my own piss to that. Science fiction was science facts. And when I saw science, it was whack. Yeah, I'm not pissed about it. Actually, honestly, I didn't hate science. I think maybe I'll have to go back and watch it because I haven't seen it in so long. I think I just remember watching it and being like kind of disappointed. And I've only seen it like the one time on DVD.
Oh, nice.
So
I've seen it a bunch of
It's
times.
been a while.
Like, in the theater, I can tell you that moment where they're like watching the footage,
like where the alien
where
like
the alien
goes
walked by,
across
like,
the
that
screen
theater was
at like a
riveted. Like was like there was an audible.
It was
gasp.
like one person. It was you.
No, it was sold out opening night.
I agree.
But that
or
moment
no,
was, like,
not I
bone
agree.
chilling.
I believe you.
Yeah.
Not I agree. I agree. You weren't lying. Yeah, no, for sure.
But also, it led to Scary Movie 3, one of some great jokes.
That movie was better.
It might be. It did have Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah. He's like, so we are all the same, and he like pisses out of his finger. It's like, what?
They're like, if only I hadn't been in that exact moment at that exact time.
Yeah.
If I hadn't drank that exact bottle of Jack Daniels,
Yeah.
she'd still be alive.
Yeah.
After he kills his wife or whatever.
Yeah, it's like, good lord. But
anyways.
Oh, man.
Rain of Fire.
Yes. So they had this 3-point system where they put these like stakes in the ground and triangulate like in an area where like stuff is. I thought that was kind of cool. But it kind of begs the question, if they had that technology, why don't they have like just a radar dish on the tank?
Yeah.
That kind of just shoots up and shows what's above the tank.
I usually don't nitpick stuff like this, but how do they have electricity?
Yeah. It's kind of like one of those things where like it makes sense for like, I guess like a place that's like I can see the what's it called, like the castle having it, because like they probably are like running some sort of like, you know what I mean, maybe they have some water that they're like running off of, or like maybe they're like creating their own electricity and stuff somewhere in the castle. But like like how are they creating it on the go with
and so much to like power an army basically?
Like I guess with something like that it would be like gas powered, right?
Where are they getting gas from?
Right. I mean I think that's probably more so like maybe the thing is what happened is like there were like people died so quickly that like the gas is still around, so there's no one really using it except for them, but like they'd have to have like essentially like I don't know. I'm assuming like helicopters and tanks run on a shit ton of fuel. But
Yeah, I mean, you should suspend your disbelief, but like when I wasn't totally engaged by the movie, like my mind was drifting to like those things.
Just like the end of Signs.
Yeah, opposite.
For me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird what like people can accept and what they can't. Like for me, like I said, like what's the end of Signs, like the whole thing with like the aliens and stuff, like with water. But like for you with like the whole gas thing, it's like some people don't think about it, whereas other people do. It's like the whole, I think it's very interesting, like who...
It's also about how much the movie affects you.
Yeah.
I think, like...
You've been affected.
I was affected by the end of Signs.
And erected. The aliens were like ghosts. They were like... Rosebuds. It's like...
Dude, if that would have happened...
Yeah.
Now that would have been a twist.
And they're just like the Ally McBeal baby. They're like... It's like, okay. So there's a
oh man,
there's a transition from a CG dragon to like an actual model.
That was cool.
I thought was really cool.
Yep.
I've got like one of the only other quotes I think that I wrote down here because whenever somebody has like a long speech, it's like or like talks, but like this is from McConaughey. Envy the country that has heroes, huh? I say pity the country that needs them. What are you celebrating? 1 dragon down, 3 men dead. Oh yeah, at this rate we might be getting somewhere in about 320 years. Is that what you want? You want a little accommodation? And then he goes, nuh-uh. I'm like, what? These beasts live on ash. They feed on death. There's no middle ground, not for them, not for us. And sure as hell not for my men who died out there today. But go ahead, have your soiree. Personally, you disgust me. I was like, Jesus! What an asshole.
I was laughing out loud.
Yeah, I was too.
That was good stuff.
But I was like, they helped him and fucking they just were happy. And then he was just essentially, like, they weren't the ones that fucked him over. Like, what the fuck? But he was so intense that it's like...
I think that's interesting to me, like, their different leadership styles because, like,
Christian Bale's like super nice. Everybody loves him.
Focus on the positive. Like, yeah, people died, but at the same time, like, if you have no hope left, then like, why?
Well, yeah, almost every other movie, that's how it would have been. Like, everybody would have been celebrating. Like, yeah, they lost people, but like, they got some sort of victory in this horrible existence. Whereas like Matthew McConaughey,
he can't think that way.
He's like, who gives a fuck? We killed 1 dragon.
Yeah.
Fuck them. They killed 3 of our people. Like, he equates like a person to a dragon. So it's like, yeah.
And Roger Ebert, one more thing he mentioned that he said about their like conflict. I'm not sure why they so ferociously oppose each other, but I believe their quarrel comes down to Van Zandt thinks they have to fight the dragons, and Quinn thinks they have to fight the dragons, but they have to look out real good.
What? What does that mean?
It means like
they have to look out real good.
Like I think he wants to be more cautious, maybe. Like I also didn't quite understand like why they were fighting because they both like have the same goal in mind.
Well, I think at first
they don't trust each other.
Well, no, like Christian Bale doesn't want anything to do with fighting dragons. He just wants to. He
keep
wants
his people
to,
safe.
Yeah, his whole thing is being like the King Arthur of the castle and essentially like watching over everybody and making sure everybody's, But I think that there's that like deep-rooted thing that probably happened in his past where at one point he did want to go out and kill a fucking ton of them because he was the first one and, probably blames himself for all that shit. Whereas like Matthew McConaughey's been killing dragons and stuff, so it's like he doesn't know any other way.
Yeah.
But like when they come to odds, it's like he'll help him, but he's like, I'm down to like kill a dragon if it comes around here, but I'm not putting my people at risk to fucking possibly kill another dragon. So when Matthew McConaughey is like, dude, we have a way to kill all the dragons, he's like, that's what kind of like flips him over. Whereas like,
it makes sense.
Yeah, where I kind of understand like why he might have been like he might not have got that and stuff, especially if he was watching it and he was like, fuck this,
he was
like hating it, like
every
because earlier I was fucking being an asshole and seeing red. So if something disagrees with you, like you're not going to be having as good a time as if like you know what I mean, and you won't see like the positives.
Yep.
So, if that makes any sense, I don't know. I tried to explain it the best I could in my thing. I'm like, what was that thing you sent me the other day? That was like the fucking. It's like my opinion or whatever. I want to read it here. It was a quote from a coach or whatever.
Oh.
This is Dak Prescott's offense, and I think you will see him taking ownership of that, because at the end of the day, defense wins championships, and the Super Bowl is won by the quarterback. If you look at it statistically, that's my opinion. Like, if it's statistically that way, and statistically things are like facts, so like, what do you call them, like stats or whatever? Those are facts. You can't...
It's inarguable.
It's not an opinion. Like, obviously that's not the only thing that's stupid about that quote, but like the whole thing that he's like, that's my opinion. It's like
defense wins championships, but the quarterback, an offensive player, wins Super Bowls.
It's like
the Super Bowl is a championship. That quote is...
It's like,
I need to print that out and frame it.
You should,
like,
dude.
So bad.
Yeah,
good stuff.
The guy's like failing upwards.
That was the Dallas Cowboys head coach.
Just like Alex Kirksman. He got like fired from another team and got hired by the Cowboys. They're like, this guy was so bad that we have to get him. It's like, okay. But then we come to like, I guess we talked about it earlier. There's only one male in the entire species, which I don't even know how the fuck that would work in general, because it's like not that like having, because like in real life you have like in prides and like other stuff, you'll have like one gorilla and a bunch of females and stuff, but it's not like one gorilla and like 2 million females, because then they would all have to be in one fucking area.
Right.
Like,
that's just bad writing. Like, it's so improbable. Like, it makes no sense.
It would make sense if Matthew McConaughey was like, we've killed all of the males except for this one.
Yeah.
But like for there to only ever have been one male is like, how the fuck does that even?
Or if there were only
sense?
like 5 dragons that were roaming the earth, but there's like millions or thousands.
Right. So it's like, okay, so these females that are out in Hawaii are like flying around and then they just live their lives and just die. Like,
this is a convenient way for the writer
for them to be like, hey, this is, it'd be different if it was like a Borg queen is somewhere and she's controlling everything. Right. But it's, that's not how it is at all. Shit, he's like, down with the bitches and booze. Like fucking puppet master over here.
What do you think of the the skydiving scene?
I thought it was pretty cool.
I thought it was very cool. But
it reminded me of kind of like the stuff they did in Godzilla, except for that, like that movie played up the human shit way too much.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But I did have one question. Like, how high up was this helicopter that they jumped out of?
Yeah,
it's like
it
in
was
the
like
stratosphere.
In space. Yeah. Because they fell forever.
Ridiculous.
It was like a James Bond movie. Because like it's like when he's underwater and he's holding his breath and the scene's like 30 minutes long. It's like this is like movie logic. Yeah. He would have been like a corpse by now. Yeah. But they fall forever. One of the funniest things though is like a guy gets distracted and just never pulls his parachute, and it's like, huh? How many times have you done this before?
I did like the one guy fell right into the dragon's open mouth.
Yeah, and he was like, "Ooh!" Yeah,
literally munched.
Yeah, Matthew McConaughey is looking ripped in this, like we talked about earlier. McConaughey says, "Quinn, call the president. Prepare the jet. Bring my overnight bag. And Quinn, feed my fish. Not too much, because I'm off to London, England."
That was a long walk for that one, but I appreciate it.
It was worth it. Speaking of a long walk, they went on a long walk and then like got stuck, and essentially like the King Dragon came in and killed all of them, except for like 2 people, which just so happened to be Matthew McConaughey and like the woman, like in the helicopter. Mm-hmm. It was like he was setting us up. Like, how the fuck would he know you were even coming? Like, but like this guy's supposed to, like, I guess the King Dragon was supposed to be like, I don't know what, they didn't name him, but I just have been calling him King Dragon. But like he's supposed, I guess he's like super intelligent, but intelligence doesn't have anything to do with like knowledge of where people are. Mm-hmm. Unless the dragons, like I said, were like Borgs, where they're all hive-minded to this one guy. That would make more sense, but that's not how it is. But like that's the only reason why this would make any sense, that he would know exactly where they were and then like dive-bombed them. So they went to go try to kill the dragons without Christian Bale, and then they come back and they're like, "You were right, we fucked up." Like, what do you mean he was right? Christian Bale never said that like the King Dragon was gonna come and show up and kill you. Like, I didn't get what he meant by that. But then, like, randomly the King Dragon knows that, like, Christian Bale, where he is? And it's like, why would he even care where he is? It's not like Christian Bale is his, like, arch enemy just because he saw him 20 years ago. Like, you were the first person I saw when I left hibernation in London. It's like, it's like huge leaps.
Exactly.
Also, like, that dragon they killed and they're, like, starving. They never say that, like, the meat is poison, so why aren't they cutting this fucking thing up and eating it?
Yeah.
I was like
Obi-Wan Kenobi. Eating that dragon meat.
I like how people were complaining about that. This is bullshit. Obi-Wan Kenobi would never be working on a line. I'm like, what the fuck do you think he was doing for all these years? Just sitting on his
all
ass,
the things in that show,
being like,
that was bullshit.
He's like, like sitting around just like a dumbass, not doing shit. He's just levitating. Obi-Wan Kenobi would never cut fucking meat. Okay, I guess he's dead then.
I thought that was one of the like cooler touches of the whole show.
Well, it's like it's like his whole thing is like he wants to blend in.
Yeah.
What better way to blend in than to just take like essentially a factory job? But anyway, dragon meat.
Had to get into Star Wars at some point.
Dragon meat. We got Terminator landscape over here. They almost like even like run over a skull.
I didn't notice that.
With a what's it called, a tread on a thing, and I was like,
yeah, that's right.
The radio operator Bashir's wearing like a cum shirt. It's got like it's covered in like this white like spider web pattern or something, and I was like, what the fuck is with this shirt? It's like an affliction shirt or some shit. But like the King Dragon shows up and is like breathes fire straight down into the fucking castle, and everyone's like, I'm like, okay.
I thought that was almost like unintentionally comedic timing.
Yeah,
that happened. That was pretty funny
because it was also like, what's his face? Van Sant was like, shit, the castle. Like, why the fuck would he go back there at all? Like, and he goes back and like Gerard Butler is like, I'll go save some people, which I was like, are there even anybody left to save? And then like as soon as he like leaves, he breathes fire down in there and like it shuts the door and he fucking gets roasted. Mini me. Yeah.
Just like in Law Abiding Citizen.
Yeah. He just
dude can't stop getting roasted.
He's like, well played. And it's just like, he's like, as the flames like go all around him except for him. He's like, slow ride. Take it easy. Slow ride. It's like, okay. Kids are screaming bloody murder. They're like, ooh, but they were. It was like I think they must have told those kids that like Ronald McDonald didn't exist or something because they were like
the worst thing a child could hear. Ronald McDonald doesn't exist. Like I thought he cooked all the hamburgers himself.
He's like,
most kids would be happy if they found that out because they're terrified of Ronald.
Maybe
McDonald.
they were screaming because they were like, holy fuck, he did exist.
Or the hamburger burgled all the hamburgers.
Sorry guys, Christmas isn't coming this year. Hamburger stole the hamburgers. Yo.
It's a sad moment in every child's life the day they find out Ronald McDonald doesn't exist.
He's like, I don't want to grow up. I'm a McDonald's kid. So like they're going in covert style, and I'm like, why didn't they just do that from the beginning? They went in like fucking like. Just like the Pied Piper. Fucking Megadeth over here, and the fucking dragon reams him, and he's like, you were right, we should have went in covert style.
Yeah.
Like, no shit. So instead of having a whole army to set this plan up, they only had the three main actors to set this up. And they drove up Main Street, essentially, which was described as their... Not only that, but, like, in the movie, they talk about how, like... Because, like, that thing where you were talking about how, like, when he first killed a dragon, he was like, we were in Kansas, and it came up on us, and it missed us 3 times, and that's when I realized, like, that they're strong during the day, but stronger at night, but during twilight, like, they're weak.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they can't see shit. Like, they can't focus. And he was just like, saying that, and then later on, what do? They ride up to the city at fucking night. The most powerful time. But the weird first-person dragon vision that they had for, like, one scene, I was like, what? This is really weird.
Dragon cam.
Yeah. Exploding crossbow bolts, magnesium-tipped C4 arrows. And I was like, and he's like, we have paid a terrible price. And I was like, okay. I put a note down here that says, Matt, I'm going to put it down that Matthew McConaughey is going to die. And that the Christian Bale and lady are going to, like, live on and be, like...
You called it?
Yeah, like, be together. Shocking. Christian Bale, like, fucks up and drops his arrow somewhere randomly.
Oops.
Yeah, I was like, huh. And then Matthew McConaughey essentially does, like, one of the coolest things ever. This is, like, straight out of, like, a fucking action, like, what's it called? I was going to say Despicable Me. Expendables. He just, like, he shoots a 3-4 arrow onto the dragon, it blows up in his face, and then he jumps off of a fucking tower with his axe, trying to kill it, and it grabs him, but, like, still the whole thing is like, what the fuck? That was ridiculous.
That was the trailer moment.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
It was really cool.
And he flew like 100 feet.
Yeah, when he leaped off, it's like his Achilles tendon exploded in his legs. So Christian Bale finally, like, lines it up, and he fires a crossbow bolt into the dragon's mouth. Rambo, eat your heart out.
Got him.
Like Star Wars, eat your heart out. He, like, it swallows it, and it, like, fucking does, like, a Looney Tunes thing where he's like, and then he's like, boom. So
it's cool. Cool ending.
Yeah. She says, he always thought you could do it. Matthew McConaughey's character that has known Christian Bale's character for a day or two always knew that Christian Bale's character could kill a male dragon he didn't know existed. Like, what?
Yep.
Also, like, I guess that's kind of being like, you knew, like, they never discussed that he knew this dragon, and I don't even know if Christian Bale put it together that this was the dragon he saw when he first escaped. Like,
he always knew you.
Yeah. Even that's why he treated you like shit. And they want to talk to the person in charge. Well, that would be you. It's like he hands it down to his, like, surrogate son, which I thought was, like, a cool touch and stuff. Like, his son was, like, gonna go off. It was, like, not his son, but it was like it was his son. It was like his adopted son, a guy that a kid he found that his parents had died that he, like, took in essentially. He's Alfred in this film. So 3 months since the last dragon sighting. Here's to evolution. I'm like, hopefully not. That's what caused dragons in the first place, you fucking idiot.
Yeah, that was a weird end line.
I thought it would have been interesting to know, like, it was cool to see dragons and stuff, but this made me be like, man, it'd be kind of cool to see, like, more films like this with, like, alternate histories of, like, hey, it's nowadays, and, like, everybody wants to talk about Dre. No, like, it'd be interesting as, like, nowadays, like, instead of dragons, it would be, like, some other cool mythological. I don't know. I like when they take something, like, that's totally outlandish and they.
Yeah, me too.
They try to make it, like, fit in reality to a degree. Some of the stuff in this didn't work, but some of the stuff did, where they were like, you know, they have, like, these glands that mix, like, nitrous and stuff, and it blows up or whatever. And I was like, oh, that's cool. But, like, the one male and, like, a billion females was kind of like, eh. Yeah. For a dragon movie, that was the one thing that was kind of fucking stupid. But you know what I mean? It's like it's like you were saying, a thing of disbelief. Like, when are you gotta call it at some point?
Yeah. You can only suspend so much.
Yeah.
I just had a couple other things. Like, I felt bad for the set decorator on this movie because Matthew McConaughey was chewing all the scenes. and
he's like,
I mentioned that Roger Ebert panned this movie, but, like, his team does a series of videos on his website called The Unloved, where they, like, champion movies that kind of weren't big hits. And they did one for Reign of Fire. And I was like, oh, cool. And then I started watching it, and it was like they were speaking in that pretentious like NPR voice, and I was like, I can't watch this. Like, listen to this. I hate this phony crap.
Reign of Fire belongs to a small but admirable subset of post-apocalyptic movies that infuse visions of a horrific future with elements of medieval legend and society.
Like, why is he talking like that? Talk normal. Like, don't be phony.
Dude, fuck that. We should talk like that from now on. I'm like,
science is a meditation on the fragility of mankind.
Would have been interesting to know more about dragons and maybe another creature. Now I'm sounding like Snape from fucking Harry Potter. Mr. Weasley. It's like, what? He's like, the legend. I'm like,
dude,
why?
I hate that pretentious crap. Like, don't be phony.
Don't be phony. Give me a bony. Yeah, so any other things about this?
No, that's all I got.
What would you rate this on a scale of 9.95?
I'm going to go 6.95.
Yeah.
I would say I like this movie. I'm glad we watched it. It was entertaining, kind of silly.
Yeah.
My favorite part was Matthew McConaughey's performance.
Yeah.
It was good.
I gave it like a 7.95. I had a 6.95, but the more I thought about it, the more I was like, this is like a perfectly adequate movie.
Yeah.
It just didn't...
If every movie was at least this good, we'd be in good shape, dude.
I'd be fucking happy as fuck, dude.
Yeah.
Not just for the podcast, just in general.
Yeah.
I'd be like, holy shit. Because as stupid as some of the ideas are in this, like, they at least gave a shit to execute a lot of them well. Mm-hmm. And, like, you don't see dragons a fuck ton in this movie, which for some movies that would be annoying. But in this film, they, like, make up for it with, like, actual stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So, good lord.
All right. Good pick.
Yeah. Ah.
So, next week, Matt Week.
Hopefully
I can...
Bitch Week.
Bring back the positivity.
Hell yeah.
For Weird Watches, we'll do another new show that I've been wanting to see, Yellow Jackets. I've heard good things about it. I have high hopes for.
Just about people getting stung by bees. They're like, ah!
I think it's about a plane crash and people becoming like cannibals.
Becoming bees.
Like, bzz.
People finding out Ron McDonald isn't real.
Every child's worst nightmare.
Crashing planes and killing themselves.
And for the feature presentation, we're going to go... Did you hear about this guy, Johnny Depp? He's been in the news.
Ah.
Ed Wood, starring Johnny Depp.
Nice. I had that on my list at one point.
Nice.
You're like, Pirates 5. I'm like... Please, God, no.
Please. Which I saw in theaters for some reason.
I've seen all of them. Because I'm like... I like... what's his face?
Orlando Bloom.
Jeffrey Rush.
And
he's in all of the films, so... Like, hell yeah, dude, I love this character. And then in the latest one, they, like...
Paul McCartney
kill the fuck out of his ass. And one of them, like, what's his face shows up?
Keith Richards?
Yeah, it's like he's like fucking Captain Jack Sparrow's dad, and I'm like,
yeah,
this fucker's still alive? It's like, my fucking dad's alive, but it's like, cool. Austin fucking Powers, Pirates of the Caribbean. Cool. So yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about this. Do you have anything else to say about this?
I think we nailed it.
We just like a coffin. We nailed it. It's like, wait, what? That doesn't make any sense. Okay, so these podcasts will always be up Mondays unless something catastrophic happens, like the world exploding.
I hope nothing happens.
Yeah, I guess if that was the case, then there would be no podcast. But yeah, they're up every Monday, SteakBone164, and Instagram and Twitter. So, I don't know. The only thing I have left to say is, fire. Yeah. Do you have anything else to say?
Just one thing. And that one and only thing is... Bye.